Have you anything further to offer?
Yes, I have, Your Honor. I'd like to submit the following facts and evidence. It concerns the Post Office Department, an official agency of the United States government. The Post Office Department was created by the Second Continental Congress on July 26, 1776. The first Postmaster General was Benjamin Franklin. The Post Office Department is one of the largest business concerns in the world. Last year, under Robert Hannigan, it did a gross business of $1,112,877,174.
Your Honor, I'm sure we're all gratified to know that the Post Office Department is doing so nicely, but it hardly has any bearing on this case.
It has a great deal, Your Honor, if I may be allowed to proceed.
By all means, Mr. Gailey.
Your Honor, the figures I've just quoted indicate an efficiently run organization. Furthermore, the United States postal laws and regulations make it a criminal offense to willfully misdirect mail or intentionally deliver it to the wrong party. Consequently, the department uses every possible precaution.
Your Honor, the state of New York is second to none in its admiration of the Post Office Department. It is efficient, authoritative, and prosperous. We are very happy to concede Mr. Gailey's claims.
For the record, Mr. Mara?
For the record. Anything to get on with this case.
Then, Your Honor, I want to introduce these pieces of evidence.
I'll take them, please.
I have here 3 letters. They're addressed simply Santa Claus. No other address whatsoever. Yet these letters have just now been delivered to Mr. Kringle by bona fide employees of the Post Office. I offer them as positive proof of the competent...
3 letters, Your Honor, are hardly positive proof. I understand the Post Office receives thousands of these letters every year.
I have further exhibits, Your Honor, but I hesitate to produce them.
Oh, I'm sure we'll be very happy to see them.
Yes. Produce them, Mr. Gailey. Put them here on my desk.
But, Your Honor...
Put them here on the desk. Put them...
Yes, sir. Your Honor, every one of these letters is addressed to Santa Claus. The Post Office has delivered them. Therefore, the Post Office Department, a branch of the federal government, recognizes this man, Kris Kringle, to be the one and only Santa Claus.
Since the United States government declares this man to be Santa Claus, this court will not dispute it. Case dismissed.
Go ahead, applaud. The question, of course, is there really a Santa Claus? Nearly a century or more ago, there was an article written to a little girl named Virginia, and most of you might remember the opening line of that article. It says, "That's right. Yes, Virginia, there is a..." And that's where this movie gets its inspiration from. The movie acknowledges that, quite frankly, there were some difficulties about believing in Santa Claus. Most of us understand that. How does the movie solve that? What do they do? In order to answer the question, is there a Santa Claus, what did they do? They appealed to a higher authority. Now, we all chuckle when we think about identifying the U.S. government as a higher authority, and in particular, we chuckle when we think about claiming the post office as a higher authority. I know, some of you probably worked for them. And I am grateful for them. But the fact of the matter is, in the movie, It's when they appealed to the higher authority that the belief in Santa was proven. It was the miracle in the movie. The miracle was finding a reason to believe. And sometimes finding a reason to believe, whether it be in Santa Claus or in Jesus, is really difficult. I want to take you just on a little bit of a journey back in history. Because I have a question. How many, in fact, I'll ask this question, how many here today understand that the Christmas story that we celebrate every year at this time might be just a little bit difficult to believe? Some of you aren't telling the truth. Because I'm pretty sure that most of us here today, if you picked up the Bible and didn't know about it, and you read the Christmas story, or you got a Christmas card. How many of you have gotten a Christmas card? Now, I love Christmas cards. You know, we have Hallmark to thank for so much in our lives. We have Hallmark to thank for Christmas cards that condense the whole Christmas story into one little tiny picture. We call it the Nativity. Look at any nativity in this day, and you find the baby Jesus, Mary and Joseph, shepherds, sheep, cattle, sometimes a donkey, and a baby Jesus, and 3 wise men. And a star. Thank you. See, there's more. Now, Hallmark put all that together in one card. And we said, that's cool. And I collect nativities, and I love them. And I think they're among our best Christmas storytellers. But I want you to think about the Christmas story as I present it to you with the question, is this really easy to believe? Because most of you didn't raise your hand when I said, do you ever have trouble believing this story? So I'm assuming it's all easy for you and you've got it all. You really don't even need this sermon, really. So let's see. That first Christmas story, here's how it went. In the New Testament, anyway. The first thing that happened was an angel appeared. How many of you have had an angel appear in your life? 3 hands. That's pretty good. Oh, now that was nice. One of the men in the room reached across and patted his wife on the shoulder. Isn't that sweet? So most of us in this room haven't had an up-close and personal appearance of an angel. Does anybody know what happened the first time the angel appeared? Happens every time an angel appears in the Bible. Whoever the person is that's getting the appearance is filled with fear. So most of us are pretty glad that we haven't had an angel appear to us, because most of us don't like to be afraid. So that was number 1. The angel appeared. Easy to believe. How many of you have had an angel appear to you? So maybe not so easy to believe. The second thing that happened, a virgin got pregnant. Now some of you snicker and smile at that. And I can tell you that most of us have trouble believing that. The third thing that happened, more angels appear. In this one story, more angels appear than I ever hear from any other part of my life. And your lives, together, combined. Joseph is convinced his fiancée didn't cheat. Then there's this trip to Bethlehem. Do any of you understand that that trip was an unnecessary journey for Mary? How many months pregnant is Mary at this point? Somewhere about 8.5. They're going on this really long trip. There's no air conditioning, besides it's winter time probably. There's no car. There's not a wagon. There might be a donkey. Any of you ever had the joy of riding a donkey while you're 8.5 months pregnant? Men shouldn't be raising their hand now. Y'all see a problem here? Now, I said that it was an unnecessary journey for Mary because the governor Quirinius decreed that the whole world should be counted and that every man should go back to their village to be counted. Mary did not count, but she went anyway. They get to Bethlehem. There's no room for them in the inn. We're not surprised by that. Many scholars think there probably wasn't an inn. The baby comes. Do you ever notice that sometimes babies come at the most inopportune times? In every case I've ever been around babies, they come when they want to come. They don't wait till it's convenient. They don't wait till it's easy. Men, you shouldn't probably be smiling at this point, just so you know. Oh, angels appear again. Now think about this. We're 1.5 chapters of the Bible, and angels have appeared at least 3 times. This time they appear to the shepherds. And the shepherds are so filled with awe and inspiration, they do what we would expect them to do. They went where the angels told them to go. You know, that's a whole other question. If an angel came and told you to go somewhere, would you go? Some of us would, some of us would go, are you kidding? But I'm thinking about this story from Mary's point of view. What do you know about shepherds? I'm going to give you some information about shepherds. Do you know where shepherds in Jesus' day slept? With their sheep. Maybe you see a problem with that? If not, you've been in the city too long. You all need to go find some sheep to sleep with. I'm not even sure where you can find sheep to sleep with in this part of Texas, but if you're interested, I'll do the research so you can go sleep with them. Any of you want me to do that for you today? No? Because you already know that sheep are dirty. And sheep are kept outside. And these shepherds, these weren't, you know, we have some wonderful pictures of shepherds. And they always look so clean. They have this white robe on and this crook staff. And they look pleasant. No. Turn to a neighbor and say, no. Because let me tell you something, shepherds in Jesus' day were the dregs of the earth. Shepherds in Jesus' day stunk. They smelled bad. They had body odor. They hadn't had a bath in 70 Saturdays. Maybe 100. They slept with the sheep. And if you're Mary, I'm just thinking, are you sure you want them to come to your little stable? So shepherds come and worship. Then the star appears. Boing! Indicating to the whole world, or at least to 3 wise men, where the baby was. Only the wise men kind of goofed and thought it stopped over Jerusalem. So they visited Herod. Now Herod, last week we talked about him, he treated the wise men like they were good guys and went behind their back to try to figure out what was happening because he didn't like the news that the wise men brought. And the king gets angry because the wise men outsmart him. The wise men show up where Jesus is, give him these fabulous gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Any of you get gold, frankincense, and myrrh for Christmas last year? Might be in the box tomorrow. No, it won't be. I can't afford it. I could find some gold. I might be able to find some incense, but that myrrh stuff, it's not available on the market. They get these amazing gifts. And then, and only then, they run for their life. So how many of you think that that story might be just a little bit hard to believe if you're hearing it for the first time? Come on. This is a hard story to believe if you're hearing it for the first time. And there's no wonder people have trouble believing. Because quite frankly, with all of that, Santa might be easier to believe in. Besides, it's a much more pleasant thing. You know, we never think about Santa going up and down the chimney very often. I'm thinking that suit wouldn't be red and white very long. So what's going on in this story? I have two readers today that probably will never read for me again, at least at Christmas time. Thank you, Johnny. You did a fabulous job. Give him a round of applause. Because all of you are grateful I didn't call and ask you to read the genealogy of Jesus. It was long. It had lots of names. And the names meant nothing to most of us. Oh, we recognized some of them. We recognized King David. We recognized Abraham. We recognized, well, Jaime recognized Perez. So what's the deal? Why did I have that story read? Well, I had that story read for a very important reason. Because if you're here in this room in this century, you like to have a paper trail. You like to have some proof about the things you're talking about. And I'm here to tell you today that 2,000 years ago or so, Matthew looked into the history and said, you know, those people in the 21st century, they're going to want better evidence than just my say-so. And he says, I have some. People are going to have trouble believing the story about Jesus' birth. They need some evidence to support the story. Just like in the story, Miracle on 34th Street, they didn't want to just assume that he was Santa Claus. They wanted proof, and the proof came from somebody who had an unerring image. The post office. And if the post office said that Kris Kringle was the one and only Santa Claus, then by golly, he was the one and only Santa Claus. That's right. Well, Matthew looked down through history, and he says those people in the 21st century, they'll never believe this story. Matthew says, I was here, and I don't hardly believe this story. By the way, Luke didn't believe the story either. He's got a genealogy too. It's not exactly the same, but it's close. Matthew says, I have to give the people in the 21st century some help. And so he says, I'm going to tell them about Jesus. The only problem is Matthew could only tell us about Jesus in the way that Matthew understood and knew about Jesus. Of course, that makes perfect sense, doesn't it? He says, so I'm going to tell them who Jesus is. I'm going to give them a pedigree. I'm going to give them a family history. I'm going to give them the lineage from Abraham all the way to Jesus. And that's where Johnny came in and said, and this one was the father of this one and this one. And to us, we listened and said, why is the preacher having him read that? Oh my gosh, it's 17 verses of nothing but names that nobody would really name their children. Isn't that true? You were thinking that nobody would name their child in their right mind Abinadab. Turn to somebody and say, hey, I don't think I can call you Abinadab. Isn't it true? You wouldn't name your child that, would you? Would you raise? Eliakim? Maybe Perez. The fact of the matter is we listened to those names and we shook our heads and said, boy, this better be good because I'm asleep now. That's why I had it read early in the service, by the way. But there it is, the proof that we need in the 21st century. The proof that would convince a judge of who Jesus is, just like the post office was able to prove who Santa Claus was. You see, because what Matthew does is he gives us the lineage. And he says, from here to 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 here. Finally, we get to Jesus. There he is. All of these people. By the way, there's a mathematical formula here. There's 14 generations from Abraham to King David. And they all point to Jesus. Then there's 14 generations from King David to the Babylonian deportation. And those 14 generations all point to, say it, Jesus. And then there's 14 more generations from the deportation to Babylon to Jesus, and they all point to Jesus. That's right. One after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other. All of those names point to Jesus, because they all are part of the story. They all are part of the pedigree. They all tell us who Jesus is. And just so you know, it isn't just Matthew. It's not even just Luke in his genealogy. But in that reading that came second today, we call it the Magnificat. It's Mary's song of praise for the news that she's going to have a baby who's going to be God. I want you to listen to these words one more time. And Mary said, my soul magnifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God my Savior. He has looked with favor on the lowliness of his servant. You have to remember who Mary is. Mary is a nobody, married to, or almost married to a nobody, living in a no-place town. Lower than low. He has looked with favor on the lowliness of his servant. Surely from now on all generations will call me blessed, for the Mighty One has done great things for me, and holy is his name. His mercy is for those who fear him from generation to generation. That's an important line. Remember all those, what were these? 14 generations. 14 and 14. From generation to generation, people will call me blessed, she says. And he has shown strength with his arm. He has scattered the proud in the thoughts of their hearts. He has brought down the powerful from their thrones and lifted up the lowly. He has filled the hungry with good things and sent the rich away empty. He has helped his servant Israel in remembrance of his mercy. And if you didn't believe me before, that the stories were all connected, listen to this last line. According to the promise he made to our ancestors, to Abraham and to his descendants forever and ever. Abraham, Isaac, 12 more, 14 more, all the way to Joseph and Mary, and then to Jesus. The Christmas story. The Christmas story doesn't come without proof. The Christmas story doesn't just come out of the blue. The Christmas story isn't just some myth that we in the church dreamed up so we could decorate. No. The Christmas story, the coming of Jesus as a baby, giving us reason to celebrate God being with us, was predictable and was fulfilled. Unlike any other religion, unlike any other belief. From Abraham to Joseph, it spoke of Jesus. And we get to celebrate with Mary, who says, I am blessed because the Lord has sent a Savior. Amen. Today's invitation song is one of those angel songs. If you need to make a commitment to Jesus Christ, to receive Him as Lord of your life, we invite you to do that by coming forward as we sing this song. If you want to make First Christian Church your church home by transferring your membership or by statement, we invite you to do that by coming forward as well. Let us stand together and sing, Angels we have heard on high.